Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We're very excited to have Chance Smith with us to be our speaker this week. Welcome back. We've had a little bit of a hiatus on these webinars, but we're excited to be back. As a reminder, if you have any questions, use the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen, or you can use the chat feature. We will definitely get to answer all your questions. But I'll go ahead and turn it over to Chance, let him get it started, and I'll be back with you at the end.
All right, let me get started here. So, all right, I'm Chance, co-founder of GoNow. I appreciate everybody taking the time here today. I know it's probably been a busy week for everyone, busy month with COVID and everything. But I graduated from Radford in 2012. First off, I want to thank Michelle, Frank, and all the other staff for this opportunity. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat as we go on. Questions. The more, the merrier. But we'll save some time at the end, and I'll answer what I can. But I want to tell you all about what I call the art of making connections as it pertains to my journey. And so here's just a quick overview of some of the things we're going to cover. It's understanding connections, utilizing connections, external, internal connections, and relationships and connections to grow your business. And so I want to tell you all about my journey and how I got to where I am today by understanding the art of making connections. And so just imagine a kid who just wants to play basketball and with no real plan, kind of going through the motions. But this is the information that nobody ever really told me. So in order to know me, you have to know where I come from. So shout out my parents. I grew up in Roanoke, Virginia, typical mid-sized community. And my parents were both collegiate athletes. My father was a big-time high school football coach in the Roanoke area. Saturdays were actually spent most of the time either watching college football or going up the road to Virginia Tech for a game. So it's definitely some good times. And in order to understand how I'm able to do this with the art of making connections, I had to see how my parents did it. So we had the best tickets to everything, whether it was like an event, whether it was music, a sporting event. I got to meet some of my idols, and I started to wonder like how we were getting to do all of these things. I never witnessed any like money transaction or standing in lines paying for these experiences. But I would always remember my parents would respond, just treat people the right way. So I guess that kind of stuck with me. And I knew what I wanted to just keep experiencing what I always knew to be normal. And going along, so my mom, she worked her typical 9 to 5, but my dad was in the school system. So he got out of school around 2:45, and I would get dropped off over at his school. And that's me and my dad right there. Some of my trophies. But what he would do is I would get dropped off at his school. I would have a basketball in my hand, not going anywhere near the football field or the weight room. As you can see, I was very small. So my dad let me hang out in the gym. I was all about like 8 years old. And what I realized about the gym at his school is this is where a lot of cultures and backgrounds merge. So everybody from waiting for the school bus, getting ready for practice, just hanging out after school. This is where all these people just kind of hung out and chilled. My dad would say, don't be running your mouth when you're in there. So I may have asked a few questions as all kids do. But I would really just sit back and observe how others interacted who were twice my age. I was actually kind of scared to talk because one of these teenagers who were 3 times my size could actually probably beat me up. So I was just known as the coach's son that would be in there shooting, and I would occasionally get asked a question, and I would respond very short and politely and ask them a question about something that I observed they were good at, and then I would go back to shooting basketball. My dad would get messages saying, "Yo, coach, your son is chill. He's cool." I wish I was still that cool, but that was some of the things my dad would relate to me. And as I can remember, I don't remember even like meeting or interacting with a lot of these people, but that was the response my dad was getting. And later on in life, I realized what I was actually doing was beneficial. So it was being a good listener understanding these people as well as the tendencies that they had, no matter their background. What I saw as short, polite answers or gestures was actually an introduction to someone feeling open arms and a connection to me. So I was finding that point of commonality between people and seeing how your understanding of what they do or where they come from can be exposed in a positive form. And this goes to my basketball. Everybody goes through a lot of the same things when they're in high school. You have a certain clique of friends. You start venturing out. You get your license. Your parents are on you about making the right decisions. I know many of us may not listen. I didn't listen like I should have. But in my earlier AAU days, as you can see here, it's me on the corner with the trophy, one of the smallest guys. I met one of my best friends during this time frame. We met at a basketball camp in 6th grade. And we really connected outside of sports, and we started hanging out, spending time fooling with like creating music and just learning new technology. Our friendship grew along with our friendship with another friend of mine who is one of our teammates in this photo here. He was almost 7 foot tall. That's him in the center above my dad. And we actually decided to form a group. So no, it wasn't a band, wasn't a singing group, or wasn't anything like that. But we actually would dress up as clowns and dance at kids' birthday parties who were kids of our parents' friends. And so with that being said, as that grew, we decided to evolve that from not only just dressing up and doing that, but we said, let's put all of our connections together and start throwing parties. And so that's in this photo right here. You can see us at our parties, but our first party absolutely flopped. We probably had 5 people there, including us. We went back to the drawing board to see how we'd be able to tap into our parents' network. So not their wallet, but their network, and saw that we could actually get event space for cheap at the local university or local college, which is Roanoke College, if you all are familiar. And this was a centralized location for everyone that we plan to invite. So we did this through, which it's kind of funny. We did this through like MySpace, which was popular during the time, phone calls, limited text, because we didn't have unlimited texting when I was in high school, and word of mouth. So through persistence and actually understanding what other high schoolers wanted in the area, we saw success and like got hundreds of high schoolers to come party with us. I later understood this to be utilizing my connections. And these immediate connections actually gain more connections. And in today's digital age, this is more important than ever, because I feel like the social media that is out there is a lot better than what we had. So Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, all of these things are actually platforms you can utilize and take action on now by staying in contact with these connections and seeing how you can add value to what they're doing. And so now let's fast forward to Radford. In school, I was the socialized king. So quick note, I had some pretty cool roommates. We all had the same common goal, which was let's have fun while we're here. So that's them in the picture here. That's 3 of my other roommates. I had one more. But I actually found myself getting invited to other universities and major cities because we would have so many people come over to our house who actually went to different schools. And this is important here. I was actually getting these invites, but I was turning them down. I was acting like I really didn't care to go. And I actually felt like I was invited more when I was turning them down. So what I did when I traveled on the weekends, when I wasn't obligated to stay at school on the weekend, I would find myself in major cities with people that I had been connected to. So I met a lot of like artists, entertainers, celebrities, and I would tell stories to my family members and my close friends. And the first question would be, how did you do this? How did you do that? How did you get to go there? And my response would be, no idea, but it was a good time. And so kind of switching gears to the basketball portion of Radford, during the season, I was all in on the sport. I thank my coaches and my teammates. And what I did outside of the contest is I would actually talk to other players and coaches, even students at the other schools. And it was because initially I wanted to be a grad assistant, but it was definitely about competition when I was on the court. But off the court, I wanted to truly understand kind of these other people's experiences and what they were going through. Looking back at my social life in college, what I decided to do with my time actually heightened my understanding of people in the long run. And some of the lessons that I learned up to this point, so from early on all the way through college, is first connect with purpose and intention. And another thing is, in today's world, I feel like there's a lot of take. And it's for us to actually be of service. So in relationships, you should actually be giving twice as much as you receive. So when you make this connection, you have a relationship with somebody, you should be giving them more than you're actually receiving. I think one action you can take now is start by actually investing in your connections. So little gestures like, how are you, checking on them, sending them little short information via text or social media, just getting out of your comfort zone to really engage with those people. The little things actually go a long way when it comes to strengthening connections. So really investing in those connections. And here's the after college. I know a lot of people may be able to relate to this. So after school, I honestly had no idea what I wanted to do. I didn't know where I wanted to go or where I was going to end up. I was connected to a few people down in Charlotte. So 2 weeks after graduation, I actually landed a job in marketing. And all I did in the interview was talk about sports. I have no idea how I got the job at the time. But this actually opened my eyes because I was connected to quite a few people in Charlotte. And I was going out with them on the weekends and sometimes during the week. And I saw a bulk of my time outside of that was actually spent with my team at work. And I took the only approach I knew, which was I tried to find that commonality between myself and my team members at work. And I also would meet with other teams to see how this whole job thing worked because it was my first job. Throughout that, I found a lot of people had common interests from like social interests to even basketball, which actually segues into what I did during my time when I was working. I actually was getting invited to an invite-only pickup game with the CEO and other executives of the company 2 times a week. And this is at a company that's filled with people, hundreds of people, which is now at thousands of people from a wide variety of backgrounds who played sports previously, who never got that same access to actually play in those games. And I found myself hanging out outside of work with my team members. And some of the things that we talked about while we were at work, which we probably shouldn't have been talking about a lot of these social things because, I mean, it was work, but we were just young. And these were very well-versed people who were on my team. They came from very prestigious universities and schools. And through our conversations, I realized they were all yearning for this social element in life that I didn't really understand because this is what I've always really done. Which is interesting. And this is where my external connections come into play. And simply put, that's my network. And all of my connections actually were in the social scene. So they actually ran like the weekend nightlife scene, all of those things. So when I did start inviting my team members out, I started with 1 or 2 people. And the next thing I know, they're friends of a friend of a friend is trying to hang out with me on the weekends. So this actually kind of helped my current connections because it was bringing people to their establishment and introducing them to a new market of people. And for my connections at work, this was giving them one thing, which was simply put as just happiness. They're excited to be there and they love to do it every weekend. And how I did this is I actually made connections and I understood the problem or issues that my connections were facing. And I just saw that commonality and how I was actually able to add value. And that's what goes into this statement. Your network is your net worth. I can't say that enough. Your network is your net worth. This opened up so many doors for me indirectly, still not knowing what I really wanted to do in life, which kind of segues into this short video I'm going to show you. It's a 1-minute video, but really talks about like true self and meaning there. Just check this out.
Human beings are disconnected from their own true self. The senses, the mind, the intelligence requires to be in harmony with the heart and with the living force within the heart, which we call the soul or the spirit. And when we understand the sacredness, the beauty, the eternal nature of our own spirit, then we can recognize it in creation and we can recognize it in others. When we don't realize, experience, perceive the sacredness of our own true self, then our perception is an illusion of the world. But when we understand who we are and understand our harmony and relationship with the world around us and the people around us, then we're actually seeing everything as true.
And that's from one of my favorite podcasts, Impact Theory. You all should actually check that out. It talks a lot about true self and internal connections. And this is where I get to something that I call me search. So not research, but actually me search. This is where the tables turn. So I did a lot of questioning. I think I talked about that before, sitting back, listening, understanding others. But there came a time where the light was actually shining on me. As others began to grow around me, I had a moment where I actually had to ask myself, like, what would I rather be doing? What brought me here today? And what is my purpose? And what's the legacy I want to leave? I had a certain level of introspection where I tried to find the connection within me. Yes, I looked at what I was doing and I know there was more for me. So I was doing the same process, but it was actually getting the same result. This is when I started to kind of tap into things that not only stimulated ideas for me, but also ask myself tough questions. So I went back to those values that were instilled in me from my parents. Treat people the right way. And I followed up with asking myself, how can I treat people the right way when I don't fully understand them? Better yet, understand myself. And I say all of this to say where I really started understanding who I was and the connection within me. The outcome is going on a search for information about yourself and what you encounter can lead to deeper connections as you have more of an understanding of your true self and your experiences. So some of the best practices I did to do this is I created daily habits. So consuming articles, podcasts as the one you just saw a clip of, interviews, and just random information I would look up to formulate these ideas. And then also from an external side, so I make sure I engage in some form of like physical fitness, yoga, and even like meditation, because I know that calmness actually helps stimulate the best ideas for me. And so making sure everything from like food and water perspective, I was putting the right things inside of me to keep this engine going that's going to continue to stimulate these ideas. I mean, it's all connected. So everything from external to internal, it's all connected. And here's another video I have. It's actually just a quick 20-second clip of a conversation of someone who actually, myself and my co-founder now, we actually used to listen to a lot of his music and we still do till this day. But listen to what he says in this quick 20 seconds. It's very valuable.
You know, money it's not even real. You know, it's not even backed by anything. I don't want to like go too far into that. But when you unprogram yourself, you see that there's other forms of currency now. Like relationships are a more important currency than money itself. And that's coming from a guy who was now, I think, reported to be worth 6.6 billion. So he must know something. And so this transitions to the next phase of my life. I took a leap of faith. After working in the corporate world and connecting with a lot of different individuals, I decided to invest in myself. By founding GoNow with my best friend, we had a commonality that actually relates back to the early 2000s when we first started hanging out, which was innovative ways to impact the people around us and better the people around us. And
it's funny because in order to do this, a few things had to happen. I had to strengthen my relationships. And this is done through one thing, which I call community. You can join them or you can build them. When it came to tapping into interests such as social initiatives, I joined the groups. When it came to working out, I joined the run clubs. When it came to advice, I joined the mentorship programs. But what really changed for me and what led to growth is when I actually wasn't as easily infused into the communities that I was looking to be a part of. So I was trying to be a part of this entrepreneurial world, and it wasn't really happening as quickly and as smoothly as I would like the transition to happen. So what I did is I built them myself. I built an ecosystem of local entrepreneurs for monthly dinners, lunches, and gatherings, and I still do that. I still do that to this day. This is where I form actually new communities, and that actually helped me strengthen the overall communities that I was already a part of, and also the ones that I was creating. So it was actually strengthening that community that I went out and actually built that other community as well as joining the other ones. And so now this goes into me being a founder of GoNow and the company. I realized that I must not only build a team, but build a culture. In order to do that, you first got to understand that you must create a set of values that are consistent, also have a why. So I started doing things that were more intentional. Like I start setting a goal for my interactions, and this is something that you all can do as well. But I started meeting one new person a day. I started scheduling time to thank the people who actually connected me with others. Also, you probably all have maybe 50 to 100 numbers in your phone that you don't use, right? Make sure you use what you have and you follow up. I once heard in an interview that there is power in the follow-up. So many things actually started like just to change for me and fall into place from simply just doing that, following back up with the people. From a business perspective, I did research. So that's connecting information. I did research on different industries and the problems we were trying to solve, and I tapped into what they were trying to solve as well. And so I looked at my past connections and new connections in these focused industries based on research, and I hung on to words that they told me, and I learned their process. Once I did that, I actually saw they made connections in their own specific industry and their business that helped them grow. And that's when we really went back to the research table of understanding our business. So this is actually how connections played a part and in the industry overall. And we looked at our business and the industry overall and what we were trying to accomplish. And we looked at the parallels and the synergies between these connections. So the ones that we had researched and the ones about our company as well. And going through this process, we were able to make the connection. This all happened at the same time where our narrative was creating itself. And we saw how this could lead to more than just our app that provides users access to live music as an on-demand service, bringing it to their location, but how building innovative and creative technology puts us in the space of transforming spaces. We began to see how this would actually lead to more career opportunities for other people and how it could grow businesses and boost the overall economy, essentially transforming communities and cities around the country as we scale our company, GoNow. And I really want to harp on this statement. I know I mentioned it on the last slide, but there's power in the follow-up. Plan for it, make time to follow up, and really invest in this. This has been so beneficial in my journey, just from simply like following up with people. And I want to leave you all with some final thoughts as I finish up. I think everybody's heard this example before, but deals are done on the golf course. This means that it's not all about experience all the time. It's actually about how strong your relationships are. This is being able to make connections can lead to personal growth and success, regardless of what you're doing in life. And I realized through all of this from the beginning of my journey till now, and I'm still learning and still creating my story and learning my journey. But I realized that my duty on this earth is actually to use my blessing to easily being able to make connections to serve others, by giving them access and bridging gaps to provide opportunity for all. And that's actually how I can make a change in the world overall. And my final thought is, remember, you are already connected. Just take the time and the initiative to invest into the art of making the connection. So that is it. Thank you. Here's my email as well. Please feel free to reach out to me. But I think we can go to some Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chance, for leading us in this discussion. We did have a couple questions come through. I think the first question is, how did you decide what worked, what didn't work, and why you had such a small turnout for that first event? And then what made you kind of grow from that point?
Yeah, so I think it was actually ego. That's the honest answer was ego. When it first happened, I was kind of hurt. I think my co-founder, Ajalon, he was actually hurt as well. It was just like, man, we invited a few people, like they didn't even show up. But what we did was like, hey, I think we were good at that early on as kids. It was like, hey, if we're doing something wrong, let's go back and look at what we did to get here and how can we do that differently? What else is out there? Which I talk about connecting information. So looking at other information is like, hey, how can we get the message out to other people? And so that's when we went back to like the MySpace, using the limited tech stuff that we had. I think our parents are probably getting the bill for that. But those things actually helped and led to success. And the location played a big part in it as well.
It's so funny that you mentioned like the MySpace and the limited texting. It just made me laugh because it's like, I remember those days, and it's times have changed so much. So what would you say to somebody who either is an introvert or maybe they have some like anxiety about like reaching out and connecting with people? What are some tips that you can kind of give them?
Can you mention that one more time? I'm sorry.
So somebody who has is either an introvert or somebody maybe who has some anxiety about like reaching out and connecting with people. What are some kind of tips you can give to them to help them be successful?
Yeah, so I think I kind of consider myself that at times. And I said it at the end, like we're already connected. So you have a family member, you have maybe one friend, two friends, maybe a cousin. Start your process with them. Reach out to them, do something different that you haven't done before. Ask them how are they doing. Send them a short little text. Send them an article that's about the company that they work for. Doing little things like that help you get out your comfort zone. And then you'll start doing it on other people. And then you'll see how these connections will pay off for you.
Absolutely. Do you use LinkedIn? Is that a way to connect with people?
Yeah, LinkedIn's a great way to connect with people. I connected with quite a few people on there. I'm available on there as well. But that's definitely a good platform. I think it's in a more professional setting, but it's becoming a lot more like easygoing and social instead of just business. I think it's a good tool.
Absolutely. What about what would you say is the one or is the best way to follow up with somebody?
The best way to follow up with someone? I don't think there is a best way. I think there's many ways that you can do it. You can do it. I keep in contact with people. I use Instagram sometimes. I have friends who don't use the platform, but my friends who do engage on that, I probably will text them and they won't text me back for 5 days. I'll send them a message on Instagram. They'll respond back in 2 minutes. So just using the different platforms, picking up the phone. So like if you have somebody who's like an older relative, they like phone calls. So call them. If somebody who's working in your business, I have friends who have other companies and founded other companies, I email them and they respond back quicker like that. So that's the best way. And I just do those little tools of like, how are you? Checking in on you. Here's an article I found. Here's some information I found. This might be able to help. And these things actually show that you value the relationship and that you actually care because you're putting effort in.
Absolutely. It's all about, I guess, knowing your audience, knowing who you're dealing with at that moment. Is there one word or phrase that you believe kind of sums up the art of connecting?
One word or one phrase?
One phrase, yeah.
That's a good question. I would say being intentional and adding value. That would sum it up right there for me.
Okay. So you talked a little bit about, like, you listen to the Impact Theory podcast. Are there other podcasts or maybe books or anything that you recommend people to kind of get some more information?
Yeah. So impact theory is actually one of them. How I built this was actually introduced to me a few years back, which is good if you're starting something or building a business. Also listen to like different TED Talks as well too, because you can get a lot of random information about industries and visions of where things are going. And so that I haven't really looked at a lot of books, but I've looked at a ton of podcasts and interviews, and those are the three right there. I think that are will get you off to a good start.
Okay. So just had another question come through. What has been the most difficult part of your journey in transitioning to a more growth mind state, and being more open to pushing yourself to be intentional in learning about new topics?
Yeah, I think it was just continuing to evolve and change. In the world of entrepreneurship, things are always changing. People get married to ideas or a way of life or the way that they're going to do something, and that could change tomorrow. I think everybody saw this with COVID, and they had to adapt quickly. And I think that's been one of the things that I've done a good job with and still need to get a lot better at. And my co-founder has done the same thing as well. He's great at it, where we're always ready for change. We stay nimble, and it's almost like playing basketball. I related back to that. If somebody's coming at you full speed, don't be on your heels, be on your toes. So being able to change directions quickly.
Right. So can you give a little, like, you talked about it for a minute, but can you give a little pitch about like what your company exactly is and what you guys do?
Yeah. So GoNow is actually an app that allows you to bring your own personal musician to your location on demand. We're actually scaling it in the Roanoke Valley area, and also here in the Charlotte area. But essentially what this can do, you can get a band, a solo musician, or DJ or any genre of music to your location on demand. So if you have access to space, you can bring this experience to you. We're in a world now with COVID where people are hanging out with the same individuals in like these smaller spaces, and they still want to get that kind of that entertainment. So now they can bring that to them in a more controlled environment instead of them going out somewhere and probably, I mean, kind of making themselves susceptible to things that could happen.
Gotcha. So another question, what are some personal qualities that you think make you good at what you do? And were there any qualities that you kind of had to focus on and beef up en route to becoming successful?
Ooh. So I wouldn't say I wouldn't call it success. I would say that I'm working on myself every day. I think I have a lot of like soft skills, and my understanding of like the world that's around me is something that I've been really good at starting from early on in life to later on. Some of the things that I could get better at is I can get more uncomfortable. So I can reach out more. I can put myself in positions or go to different things or experience different things that I would maybe not normally engage with. And I think this time has actually helped me a lot because I was so focused on gym, basketball when it was a thing. Now I probably haven't shot basketball in a year, 2 years, but like I was so hyper focused on going through this routine. And now I'm just like going on hikes, playing tennis. You might catch me at the park eating something. Like I would never be outside before that. So like, it's just different things that I've actually exposed myself to, I think actually help overall.
Absolutely. Gosh, we got a big one coming in. Just some thanks coming in from some people. So I wanted to think that was, oh, I had another question. What have you been able to utilize your alumni network to kind of help grow not only your business, but help kind of grow as a person?
Yeah, I mean, I always reach out to people that went to school with me, and people who weren't in school with me at the same time, but I also reach out to that network all the time. I think it's so crucial to not only give back to your school, and I talked about giving in the presentation, but also like reach out to the people that you're connected with. I think when this was posted, I had a lot of people who reached out to me that I went to school with that I haven't talked to in a long time. And it just reminded me like, hey, I need to follow up with these people. And even a teammate that played with me, Blake Smith, like we get dinner, we go get lunch. He comes to my office, we work together, or I'll go to his space, we'll work together. And so just keeping the lines of communication open and continuing to connect.
Awesome. Well, I think that is all the questions that we have, unless somebody else has another one that comes through in the next minute or so. I do want to give a quick plug. We will be back on April 14th at 2 p.m. with Tom Lillard. He works in our Office of University Advancement on campus, and he's going to kind of talk about planning your legacy and how Radford can kind of be a part of that. And then, as always, if you guys need anything from us, feel free to reach out, phone, email, check in with us on social media. We're always doing some giveaways. We got a lot going on social media, so definitely follow us on all of our platforms. I want to say thank you again to Chance for taking his time today with us, and thank you to everybody for joining us. This will be posted on our alumni website, so you'll be able to catch the recording there if you missed the beginning, or you just want to kind of come back and maybe get Chance's contact information, you want to reach out to him. You can also do that as well. So thank you, everybody, and we will see you again next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chance.